the name Bakhodir Jalolov. Remember it. The 6'7" southpaw out of the well-schooled and well-funded Uzbekistan boxing program is going to make some real noise in the heavyweight division in the 2020s. He is one of the best up-and-coming fighters that most boxing fans have never heard of, or have only at least heard or seen glimpses of. In his homeland of Uzbekistan, he's a big star, even being used in television campaigns to encourage people to vote in elections. He was also given the honour in 2016 of being the Uzbekistan flag bearer at the Rio Summer Olympics, a massive honour for any athlete whichever country you represent. And people often forget, he is part of that storied 2016 class of heavyweight Olympians that feature Tony Yoka, Joe Joyce, Filip Hrgovic, Ivan Daichko and Efe Ajagba, and Jalolov might go on to do as much or more than all of those names. It's a big claim, I know, but indulge me here. Jalolov's name came back into the public sphere in 2019 after announcing he would be dropping back down permanently to the amateur ranks in pursuit of Olympic gold, something that had eluded him at Rio. His run back down to the amateurs may have gone somewhat unnoticed if he hadn't have started blowing opponents out, including at the World Championships in 2019, where his destructive performance against Richard Torres got people asking the question, was it okay for professionals, albeit just 6 pro fights for Jalolov, to drop back down to the amateurs? The jury among fans is still out on that question. To bring you up to speed on who Bakhodir Jalolov is and where he's been, let's rewind. The Big Uzbek, he joined the amateur scene, international amateur scene, in 2013, aged 19. And it wasn't long before he was racking up minor tournament wins, with 3 coming in Baku, Minsk and Germany in 2015. That same year, he managed to grab bronze at the World Championships in Doha. And those on the podium with him, Tony Yoka, Joe Joyce and Ivan Daichko. All those names would go on to medal at the Olympics less than a year later. For those 2016 Olympics, Jalolov was announced as the flag bearer for Uzbekistan, with the then president Islam Karimov bestowing that honour in the months before the Games. Jalolov would go on to stop Edgar Munoz in the round of 16 at the Olympics before meeting a brick wall, the eventual silver medalist Joe Joyce, who showed that while the 22-year-old had all the tools, he still had a ways to go in his development. In 2017, he would bounce back in a major way, winning the Asian Championships on home soil. Jalolov would also compete in the semi-professional World Series of Boxing, having 6 fights over 2 years in 2017 and 2018, going 3-3. With 2.5 years until the next Summer Games in Tokyo, Jalolov made the decision to turn pro, signing on with veteran American promoter Lou DiBella. In the course of the next year, he would have 6 pro fights, all of course being at a modest level for a new pro.
Bakhodir Jalolov and Hugo Trujillo. Jalolov making his highly anticipated professional debut, trained under the guidance of Pedro Diaz.
In early 2019, he would make the decision to bid for Olympic glory, with his first tournament back, the Asian Championships, which he would win. He would go on to win a tournament in Grozny before winning the 2019 World Championships in Russia, with his dominant performance over Richard Torres being a talking point for fans, with the question being, should someone who's had the benefit of being in the pro ranks be allowed to come back to the amateurs? And shortly after Jalolov's dominance at the World Championships, the WBC again reiterated that professionals who opted to do what Jalolov had done, dropping back down to the amateur ranks, would be excluded from its rankings for 2 years. Undeterred, the Big Uzbek pushed on to the Asia-Oceania Olympic qualifying event in March 2020 in Jordan. He continued to win, qualifying for the Olympics by making the quarterfinals, then going on to win the gold by defeating up-and-coming Australian amateur Justice Hooney. As at the time that this video was published, Bakhodir Jalolov had rattled off 13 straight victories since dropping down to the amateurs in his bid to make the Olympics and win Olympic gold. It's clear that the Big Uzbek has matured since his first Olympic appearance in 2016. His recent performances have proved that. The scary thing is, there is undoubtedly more improvement to come as Jalolov rounds out as a fighter and starts to come into his prime in the next few years. There are very few fighters who are 6'7" or above in the heavyweight division, and even fewer who are southpaw. But not only that, Jalolov is a well-schooled boxer who can move effortlessly around the ring. The height, the reach and the movement is going to be a problem, a lot to handle for other heavyweight professionals, as will his money punch, the big straight left hand, which has been a hallmark of his amateur career. And it's clear he has been learning from his defeats as well. For example, Joe Joyce attacked Jalolov's body at the 2016 Olympics, which sapped Jalolov and left him open to being hit. The Big Uzbek has made a point in the time since of conditioning his body to be able to take that similar sort of punishment. And Jalolov, in more than 80 amateur and pro fights, has never been stopped. He's lost, of course, but he's demonstrated a good chin for the most part. He has been down, but he got up again and often responded in kind. While the buzz for the 6'7" Jalolov was modest early in his pro career, his performances in recent amateur tournaments have shown how far he has come in recent years, making him a favourite for Olympic gold. But not only that, as the best of the next generation of heavyweights to exit the amateur system. His mix of size, skill and movement, it will translate well into the paid ranks, as will his power, which has only been increasing as he's grown into a 6'7" frame. His eventual re-entry into the professional ranks will be greeted with a lot more buzz and hype than the first time around, and it will be interesting to see how his promoter Lou DiBella will move him. It's possible we could see the Big Uzbek on DAZN, where DiBella has had a relationship in recent years, or perhaps he will need to, in time, move to a co-promotional deal to gain bigger exposure and the fights he will ultimately need at a certain point in his career. Jalolov had previously linked up with noted trainer Pedro Diaz to train him, but there will be many who will want to work with him when he returns to resume his career in America. In the meantime, Jalolov is focused on completing his mission in the amateurs, so that's a discussion for another day about who will train him eventually. But as it stands, I'm very high on Bakhodir Jalolov's chances of succeeding in the heavyweight division, and in my view there hasn't been a can't-miss prospect like this since Daniel Dubois and the notable 2016 Olympians turned pro. He might have been on a bit of a slow burn until his recent emergence, but the best is yet to come from Bakhodir Jalolov, and he will be involved in some of the very big fights inside the next 5 years. I project he will become a champion at some point. Now tell me, do you like what you see? Do you like the upside that Bakhodir Jalolov presents, or do you need to see more? Who else from the current crop of prospects is likely to challenge for heavyweight supremacy during the next 5 to 10 years? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.